The antique mirror was beautiful. Ornate gold detailing framed the glass, which was cloudy in parts due to age, giving it a hazy, dreamlike quality. She wiped the dust off its surface with a dry cloth and gasped at how clearly she could see her reflection now. It brought her face close to the glass and smiled, pleased with her own image. That night, lying in bed and staring up at the ceiling, she noticed that something was wrong with the mirror. But it wasn't obvious at first. All she knew was that its reflection didn't match what she saw before her. It took a moment for her to realize what had changed. The dresser on the opposite side of the room was now on the wall behind her bed. She blinked, confused, then sat up. The reflection in the mirror was doing the same. She stood up and walked over to the dresser, touching the cold glass of the mirror the entire time. Its reflection was right there with her, mimicking every move she made. But something was off. The drawer of the dresser was open, yet the one in the mirror was closed. She reached out a trembling hand and opened the one in the mirror, which then opened in her reflection. As the days passed, more and more things seemed off about the mirror. Some nights, she would wake to the feeling that someone was watching her. And if she looked over to the mirror, she'd see that her reflection was looking out the window or at the door, never at her. One night, she awoke to the distinct feeling that she was being watched. Her eyes shot open, and she stared at the mirror, gasping as she saw that her reflection was smiling at her, even though her mouth was closed. Was she mad? What was happening? Terrified, she buried her face in her pillow, her heart pounding in her chest. In the morning, after the sun had chased away the darkness, she got up and walked over to the mirror to look at her reflection, hoping to see herself standing there with a smile on her face. But her reflection was not smiling, and although nothing seemed out of place, she felt a growing sense of dread. Another night, she woke up to the sound of footsteps outside her room. Then the doorknob turned slowly. Was she going crazy? Maybe the stress from work was finally getting to her. She didn't want to believe that someone was really trying to break into her house because the front door was locked and she lived alone. Then she heard the sound again. Footsteps outside her door, then the unmistakable click of the doorknob. She threw the covers off her and walked over to the mirror to find out what was going on. Her reflection was standing perfectly still, her back to the glass, staring out at the hallway. Then the door behind her reflection slowly began to open. She stepped back from the mirror and watched as the opening grew wider and wider. She gasped as she saw a shadowy figure step into view. It wore what looked like a long, tattered nightgown, and it looked hauntingly familiar. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out of her mouth. She tried to run away, but her feet felt heavy as if weighted down by chains. She felt frozen in place as she watched the apparition walk closer and closer to the mirror. Its gown flowed around its legs, which were thin and bony, like the legs of an emaciated old woman. The thing stopped in front of the mirror, and she could see the moonlight reflecting off its face, revealing sharp cheekbones and sunken eyes. Then the specter turned her head towards the glass, and she screamed as she saw her own terrified reflection staring back at her. She didn't know how long she stood there watching the ghost, paralyzed by fear, unable to move or speak. Then the ghostly woman raised her arms and pressed her palms against the glass. She was so close now, and the longer they stared at each other, the more the woman's features began to change. Her eyes, once deep set, now seemed to bulge out. Her skin, once pale, became unnaturally white. Her lips turned a sickly shade of green. She was grinning now, and the sight of it made her want to throw up. The woman in the mirror reached up and pushed her hair behind her ear. Her reflection did the same, but something was off. The movement was too slow, like it was underwater. And the closer she looked, the more she realized that her reflection wasn't actually moving at all. Instead, the world around her was in a shoe. She stepped back from the mirror and stared at the wall behind it. The wallpaper had always been floral, but now she could see that it was covered with eyes, hundreds of them staring back at her. They swiveled their heads in unison and followed her every move. Then she looked down at her dress and realized that it too was covered with eyes. They were everywhere. She screamed, stumbling backwards until she hit the bed. The floor creaked under her weight and she jumped, hitting the floor hard. She crawled away from the mirror, desperate to escape the room, to get as far away from the house as possible. She had to get out. As she crawled, she could feel the eyes boring into her flesh, burning holes through her skin. Then she saw the doorknob. She scrambled for it, threw her weight against it, and it opened. She ran, tripping over her own feet as she went, not daring to look back. Behind her, she could hear the sound of footsteps, slow and dragging, like the woman in the mirror was following her. The stairs creaked under the weight of her pursuer, and she could feel its hot, fetid breath on her neck smelled the stench of decay. At the bottom of the stairs, she burst out of the front door and onto the lawn, not stopping to run into the safety of the neighbor's house. As she ran, she could feel the eyes on her back, burning, searing into her flesh, tearing her sanity apart thread by thread. She fell, scraping her palm on the concrete, but she didn't care. She had to keep going. She could feel the presence behind her growing stronger, and as she looked over her shoulder, she saw the ghostly woman emerging from the darkness of her house, her eyes glowing in eerie green in the moonlight. She was almost upon her, and when she reached out a skeletal finger and touched her arm, she screamed and ran faster. She could hear the woman's voice now, raspy and hollow, like the sound of stones grinding together. "You can't escape me," it hissed. "I am a part of you." She kept running, not daring to look back. She didn't dare find out just how much of a part of her the ghastly woman was. Then, out of breath, she collapsed on the sidewalk, burying her face in her hands. Sobbing uncontrollably, she could feel the eyes boring into her flesh, ripping her sanity to shreds. The voice whispered in her ear, growing louder. "You can't hide from me. You can't escape me. I am a part of you, and I will always be with you," it hissed. Forever, and as the last vestiges of her sanity slipped away, she saw the ghastly woman standing over her, her eyes glowing brightly in the darkness. She reached out a hand and touched her cheek. And as their eyes met, she saw a flicker of recognition cross the specter's face. "I know you," the woman rasped. "I remember now. You are my daughter." And then everything went black.